I've never been knowledgeable about being discriminated against. So this came as a shock. And of course, immediately I went into, well, I don't want to live in that building anyway mode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silver and Sensational. It is the I, as in Lois Mills, welcoming you back for another episode dealing with my move to Paris. But before I get started, you may have noticed the little button down below that says join. You can now become a member of Silver and Sensational. Check it out, see what the perks are. It would mean so much to me to have your support. So just take a look-see. And now I'll start on what is going on with my move to Paris. Let me tell you, this has been one hell of a week. I want to talk today about apartment searches in Paris. And it has really been challenging, mainly because I've been very specific in the particular area I want to live. And it is a trendy area. So finding places that are suitable has been very difficult, and I surely appreciate the gentleman I'm working with for trying so hard. But we're looking at old buildings, and many of them, in fact, the greater majority of them, do not have elevators. So, you'll see this fabulous looking apartment online, right? I mean, it's great. It's a loft apartment. It's completely redone. Great windows, great lighting. And it's on the 6th floor. And then as you read down below, it says no elevator. Even before I had issues doing 6 flight of stairs with even a small bag of groceries, I'm not a marathon runner, so this doesn't work. Or they have very strange bathroom arrangements. Again, this is if people have not recently remodeled. For instance, the actual toilet may be in a little tiny room somewhere away from the actual bath. There's, some very strange things, strange to us as Americans. And, with all due respect, I am really very difficult to please when it comes to housing. I might tell you that when I arrived in Los Angeles, I bought a house that I really didn't like that much, but I did it because my partner at that time thought he would really like to live there and he was going to pay the mortgage. Well, after 2 mortgage payments, he said, "Well, I'm not gonna pay the mortgage." And I looked at him and I said, "Well, you're not gonna live in this house." So after that, I was reminded by my realtor that I had looked at 62 houses without ever making an offer. So it is going to be difficult for me to find something, and I knew it would be. So I'm going to give you a little clue as to how it works in terms of renting properties in France compared to renting properties in the United States based on my experience. So, in the US, we have an MLS system, which pretty much is a service that allows everybody to see what is available at any given time. Well, at least in Paris, it's not like that. It's sort of a broker to broker. You have relationships with other realtors, and if they have something come on, and you talk with, they talk. Not you, but your broker talks with another broker, and then they set up apartment viewings for these brokers. The other thing that is really different than here is that the landlord chooses you. You don't choose the landlord. So in order to secure or even get a realtor to start looking for an apartment, you have to fill out lots and lots of forms, and you have to create what they call a dossier. It's a letter, basically, that you are writing to a potential landlord to try to sell yourself to them as to why choosing you to be their tenant is better than choosing anybody else who's trying to get the same apartment. With that, you have to accompany your financials in terms of income statements for at least 3 months before, 1 or 2 years of tax statements. And all of this is now made available to your broker and to any potential landlord. Now, here comes the kicker is how do you do this from here? Well, if you're able to feel that you can accept whatever someone has found for you, that makes it easier. And I'm trying this at this particular time. But what happens is the broker finds something that meets most of your criteria. He'll send you the listing, you look at it, and then they don't ever give you the actual address. So you kind of have to Google Map from what they're describing. I mean, basically, it's it's a shot in the dark. But some people, many people are able to do that. Now, if you're one of those people that is able to do that, it's still my suggestion that you take some kind of temporary Airbnb sort of place, although there's tons more than Airbnb out there, but that you try to find a place for 1 month. Now, here's another thing that is a bit different in rentals. Apparently, the French government gives tax breaks to landlords who furnish their apartments. So many of them will put just the bare minimum, whatever the tax breaks, provide, probably a sofa, a bed, a kitchen table, and some chairs. However, as soon as they do furnish it, guess what? The price goes up. So you have to consider, can I live with what I'm looking at? Do I take that out? Can I negotiate with the landlord, who will probably make you sign a letter so he's covered with his tax statements that you are taking the apartment furnished, and then he can take the furniture out. But you need time to buy furniture. Even if it's furnished and you're accepting the furnished as is, you still need to set up your own cable and internet in your name and utilities and all of those things. So just that alone, France doesn't move that fast. And you really need, I'm going to give you another kicker here, is that you can't do anything in France without a French bank account. I have heard so many horror stories from people trying to do that in France. On another note, this is a cute little story. The wonderful Ina Garten, the barefoot Contessa, years ago when she got her first check from the publisher, her husband suggested that she buy an apartment in Paris because that had always been her dream. And so she, I won't go through all the ins and outs of how difficult it was to find an apartment she liked, but once she finally found it, she was told she would have to go and get a bank account. So she saw that there was a bank across the street from her new place, and she walks in and says to the first person that she sees, I would like to open a checking account. And she's being given this very strange look and the shaking of the head. No, 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 madame. And she says, well, maybe you can direct me to who I can ask to open a checking account. It was all no, 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 ma'am, no. And she just plain didn't understand, and finally reached the point of frustration when she left the bank and she called her husband, Jeffrey, and said, Jeffrey, I just don't understand. I tried to open a checking account and they kept telling me no, 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 no. And he asked her, what bank did you go to? And when she told him, he said to her, Ina, do you understand that the bank you walked into is the same kind of bank that our Federal Reserve Bank is? I thought that was the funniest story I'd ever heard, but I do have dear friends who do business in France, and they said it was an absolute nightmare, even having their French customs agent there helping them. So you can't do a thing unless you have a French bank account. And I did find or accept the apartment was absolutely perfect for me in perfect location. And I said to my broker, I don't care what it takes, secure that apartment for me. So he calls me back and he said, are you willing to put money in escrow? I said, yes, just get the apartment. Turns out that the owner of the building doesn't want anyone who does not have French income. I just got the first guess what is different in Paris. And as being a Native American, I've never been knowledgeable about being discriminated against. So this came as a shock. And of course, immediately I went into well, I don't want to live in that building anyway mode. And that's the truth. At that point, I don't want to be somewhere where it is that difficult for them to accept someone other than a French person. So I don't know how often that's going to happen, but certainly it does, as proven by my experience. So if you are going to do that, try to find something from here. Believe me, it's near impossible to do it on your own. So it's my very strong suggestion that you find someone there who is in the real estate business. So that's if you are there. Now, I'm planning to leave relatively soon and nothing has really come up. And so to calm myself for having a place to land, I have been desperately seeking a temporary short-term rental that is in a good location and that is not only comfortable and pleasant, because I don't want to leave my gorgeous home and go someplace in a new country with everything new and having a place that I don't like. Now, for me, the most difficult part is finding a place short term that accepts pets. Believe me, not easy. So if I put in 2 or 3 arrondissements as to where I would like to live, I'll get like 800 listings. As soon as I put have pet, it could go down to 7. So the pickings are very, very slim. And at this point, I can tell you that if you were signing a long-term lease, and in Paris, it's usually 3 years for the term of the lease. However, you can get out of any lease with a 30-day notice. Having a pet is something you don't want to really mention when you're applying, but I will tell you that in France, everyone is allowed a pet. So if you have one, you can have it. But I don't think you really want to say, I need an apartment for my pet. It's not going to work. It's the landowners that are in the driver's seat. So in plain English, you kind of have to suck up to them and give them everything they want if you, in fact, want that apartment. I mean, it's a fact of life. In addition to the hardest part for Americans living there, I'm told, and I've just gotten just a small taste of it, is not the language like everyone thinks, but rather the culture. So things are they're very different than what Americans are used to. I'll tell you that over the Christmas holidays, when everything shut down. And, again, I'm going to say that Europeans don't have the same kind of work ethic that we do. By that, I mean, they took basically everything shuts down for 2 weeks over the holidays. And one of the people that I needed to contact actually was leaving for a ski vacation. Now, it's the middle of January. He had 2 weeks off from right through Christmas onto this, well through the 6th of January. Now you're going on a ski trip. I mean, it can be very frustrating.
Flames on the side of my face.
And in my frustration during the holidays, I said, oh, I have to find something. So I found a short term that I thought, well, the bedroom is a loft. And though there are stairs there, now it's not that I can't do stairs, but I'd hate like hell to slip on those stairs when I'm living there alone and not, but I took it. because it looked decent furniture-wise and the location was what I wanted, and then as I started to reserve it, I started seeing all these extra fees, and it was not VRBO or Airbnb, it was, another kind of company, and then I saw that the fees for the agency was close to a month's rent. Well, by that time, I thought, "Oh, let's just do it," because the cancellation gave me, more than a month to cancel. Well, I will share with you, I have spent Monday and Tuesday so completely strung out. And I mean strung out. And guys, I can tell you, I don't get strung out that easily. But between trying to find an airline that would let me take Jackie in business class, they've all seemed to change. Only coach, and I cannot fly coach for 13 hours, and it would be so unfair to her. I don't even know what to say. And between that and knowing I had to get a different apartment, and these websites are not always that user friendly. I mean, the last thing I wanted is to be in an arrondissement that is on the other side of Paris. When I'd be looking at apartments, I mean, it was, I'm telling you, a nightmare to the extent that yesterday I said to the people helping me, let's have lunch first. And I got such a stress headache and said, I've had enough. Everybody go home. I'm taking to my bed. And that's what I did. I shut off the phone except for anything that was emergency. I thought I had settled everything with the airline situation Monday night, only to find out Tuesday morning it was being redone yet once again. And once again, it was costing me more money. So, fortunately, one of the companies I had sent an email to that dealt with the short-term leases responded first thing. And I was so pleasantly surprised because this is a company that's all they do is they take people who buy condos, who don't necessarily or who want to rent them out most of the time, if not all the time. This company goes in and they spiff it up, put in if they don't have a good kitchen, change the kitchen, change the bath, make it look a little cozy, put in fine linens, nice furniture, and there you have it. And everything's all inclusive, which is a big help because the one thing that is more expensive if you can imagine, than in the United States is electricity costs are high. And many of these apartments are heated by electricity and they being, I guess they're required by the government to show you where they are on a chart of energy efficient, and all of the apartments I've been looking at are not at all energy efficient. So you have to add plenty of dollars onto that, plus all the fees and all that other stuff, and the taxes. This person company, which has, they offer places, I think, in Barcelona, and in places, I think, in Portugal. Anyway, they do have offices in different areas, I think, but mostly Europe. And they also offer service from 9 in the morning till midnight, which if I have a problem locking myself out or whatever, I have someone to call upon. I was more than happy to sign up with them like that. And then when I went to cancel the people that I took during the Christmas holiday, I get an email back. Well, if you don't get a response, I had to write the host as to why I was canceling. Their policy is I had until January 22nd to cancel. This was only January 14th, but I went along with it and gave her a reason, not the reason. Gave her a reason as to why I was canceling. And the email said, if you don't hear back within 24 hours, that was from the company, then you'll have to contact the host. And I thought, hey, hold on. Where are you in all this? I didn't negotiate with the host, but at any rate, I'll tell you, I got a note from supposedly the host has agreed to my cancellation. But now let me hold my breath. If I don't see a credit from them on American Express within 24 hours, which is actually 48 hours since I gave them notice, I certainly will be calling American Express to let them know that that is going to be a disputed charge. So now what? Now you get there, and I have the ability to bring Jackie to this apartment. Yes, it has an elevator, and it's not exactly in the district that I wanted it, but it is very close to the Marais, which means if I want to go look at apartments, I'm not traipsing clear across the city. On the other hand, I have to tell you that, Paris is quite a small city. So, to give you some perspective on the size of Paris, the size of the Palisades fire that is still going on here in Los Angeles is the size of Paris. So it's not a very large city, but there's traffic. And, getting on and off the metro, it's just easier if I can take a quick bus ride or even walk over to where I'm supposed to be. So there's kind of slim pickings in terms of this particular area because I do know it. Yes, it is trendy. It's also a tad more expensive than other areas. And the reason I am so hell bent on it, and believe me, I've had so many people say, well, you're going to need to compromise. Well, why don't you try something outside the area? Or you've only been there as a visitor. Well, truth be told, yes, most of that could be true. And not that 6 weeks is 6 months or 6 years, but 6 weeks in a condo is it actually was a lifelong dream of mine, and I did it for my 75th birthday. So I rented an apartment for 6 weeks in the Marais, and my dream was always to see what it was like to live in Paris, not be in a hotel getting room service and all that, but rather to actually live in Paris. And so when I got this apartment in the Marais, it was so livable. And even though it's certainly not the most beautiful part of Paris. I mean, you don't get a clear view of the Eiffel Tower as you would in other districts. And I'm not overlooking the Seine. But you see, it's completely livable. And I say this, when I say this to people, it's, for the first time after going to Paris for 50 years, it's the first time I actually saw a dry cleaner. I'd never seen, and people who've been to Paris a lot will say, you're right, I never have seen. Well, here was the story. I stepped out of my apartment. Around the corner was a lovely little market. I would walk down 3 blocks. There was a whole street. This person is selling rotisserie chickens. This is the man that's selling fish. On the other side of the street, there's 3 produce markets. Here's a chocolate shop. Here's another boulangerie for breads. I mean, it goes on, and on every corner is a bistro. So it's convenient to live in. There are wonderful parks, and the area is completely diversified. Many Parisians call it, gay village. It was at one time the Jewish ghetto. You can see still there are many, many places there that are wholesale handbags and costume jewelry, a lot of wholesale showrooms for ready to wear. So that still exists, but there's wonderful shopping, if you want national brands, or there are still many, many people there who are small business owners with unique items, whether it's sneakers or handbags or whatever. So it's an area that I feel extremely comfortable in terms of living. It just made completely different impression upon me for Paris. So, what I'd like to say is if you have any questions or any comments, please comment below. I really want to hear if I can help you, if I can help answer any question you might have. I don't mean to sound like an expert, but I certainly can share my experience with you, which is what this move to Paris is all about for you and for me. What I want to talk about next, if our visa expert is available, is what you need to do in order to be able to stay in Paris if you are staying more than 90 days. On that note, I want to bring it to a close by asking you once again to take a look at that Join tab and see if you have any interest and desire to be a member. I sure would appreciate it. And of course, the usual, please hit the like hand, share us with your friends and family. Please, if you haven't, do subscribe. It helps us tremendously. And press the notification bell to let you know when we're dropping our next episode. So in the meantime, thank you so much for being supportive of this channel and of me, and I wish you only the best. Bye now.